Welcome to Residential Tech Talks. I'm Jeremy Glowacki, Executive Editor of Residential Tech Today. This week, Bill Skaer returns to the podcast from his home in Dallas, Texas, where he's CEO of Bill Skaer Home Theater and Technology. Bill is one of the pioneers of the custom integration industry, and he currently serves on the CEDIA Trade Association's Global Board of Directors, having been honored over the years with both CEDIA Fellow and CEDIA Lifetime Achievement Awards. I've asked Bill back on the podcast at a very important time of year for all of us. We are just days away from our annual CEDIA Expo convention, which this year is held in Bill's home city. There's a bit of nostalgia related to CEDIA Expo in Dallas, which I'll let Bill remind us about in a moment. But I also want to let Bill help those of us headed to Dallas point out some of the fun neighborhoods, restaurants, and bars that he also wrote about in an article we published last week on the website. I thought as we get ready to travel to CEDIA Expo in Dallas, we'd let Bill tell us some of his favorite CEDIA Expo stories and highlight some of his travel tips for the Big D. Bill Skaer, welcome back to the podcast.
Howdy.
Howdy. No cowboy hat. I love talking to you, Bill, and catching up. And as you said to me as we prepared for this, you never know what you're going to get when I talk to you. But that kind of fly by the seat of your pants kind of stuff is what I love about talking to you, and your stories are always entertaining. So I know that you had to get your massive lawn mowed this week before we talk. So did that all get done in time so we could?
Yeah. So if I'm a little bit less energy than usual, it was 4 hours in the yard this morning. So life is good again.
Well, I've got mine waiting for me after we get off here. It's a late Friday podcast recording for us. And we've got a little cooler weather here in the Indy area than you have there, it looks like. But
it's just 100 here.
Well, that will snap us back into summer mode, I guess, when we get to CEDIA, because I'm already dealing with like high 60s and low 70s. So a little bit different. Wow. Yeah.
I'm jealous.
Yeah.
This week's only going to be in the mid to upper 80s, so it's not going to be nearly as bad as what it has been this week. We just had a continuation of summer we didn't expect. But next week it's going to have temperatures in the upper 50s for nights and in the mid 80s during most of the week. So I think it's turned out to be just the right temperature at exactly the right time.
That's great. Well, that weather forecast brought to you by Bill Skaer. So we'll move on to more technical issues now. As a member of the media, I get a lot of early sort of previews on what's going to be seen at CEDIA Expo. And after last year, which was a bit of a bust because of COVID, it just seems like everyone's just chomping at the bit to get new products shown to dealers, and for dealers to just be able to see products in person. So are you feeling that same kind of positive energy and enthusiasm going into CEDIA this year? I
can't remember when I've seen it more exciting lead up to this. And social media, it's everywhere. I've gotten so many calls from people. I just got off the phone with Rick Schuett. I mean, talk about a name blast from the past. One of the people who really helped bring lighting control to the residential business. And so Rick's actually going to be there this time. So we've got people from all over the world. I mean, I've talked to people from around the globe over the last several days. And the funny thing is, the reason I had reached out to you about that article that you published for me was because everybody was calling, looking for suggestions on where to eat and wanting to know if we were going to have a party at my house. So I told them, no, that ship has sailed. So we've been there, done that. We're over that one now. But yeah, the excitement is really great. I keep telling people this is like my Christmas. So I can't think of a better time of the year than CEDIA Expo time, because it's an opportunity for us all to get together, and products are fantastic. We're going to see really great new stuff. That's a given. But the great part about it for me is all the relationships. I mean, we get a chance to go see all of our old friends and make a whole lot of new ones. So for me, it's all about that sense of community. And so that's what it's all about for me.
Yeah, it's same here. For years, that wasn't really the thing I remembered going in. I always had to kind of snap back into, oh, this is what I like about coming to this event. Because leading up to Expo, it was just stressful for me. Usually I was getting ready with the CEDIA daily because my old job, that was my responsibility. And there was just so much to juggle coming in. And I forgot that there's actually some stuff that I enjoyed, which was the socializing, the camaraderie, and catching up with folks. But now I've had a little bit more time to breathe. I can look forward to that as well. And also just, I think that having had that humbling experience of the past 2 years, even though business has been really good, there's also been a lot of challenges with supply chain and manufacturer delays and things that I think it's humbled the industry a little bit, which has been good. I think folks are coming in with a better positive attitude without trying to just outdo that other company next door. It's not as crazy competitive as it has been, which just is my general feeling. I hope that's the case. But I was wondering. Oh, go ahead.
I think they're mostly just going to be happy to be there for a change, because I think you may have said it earlier. I'm a founding member of CEDIA, and so that means I've been there since so Tom Doherty and Chris Stevens sort of organized the first meeting at Chicago summer CES, I guess, and that was sort of where the whole idea kind of began. And then by the time we got to winter CES in Vegas, then there were several hundred of us that kind of gathered in a ballroom and figured out, hey, I think it's probably a really good idea to have an association that is all about our members, about the people who are the actual integrators, the people who do the work out here, not just manufacture it, not be a commercial organization. It's the actual home integration part of this thing is where it all kind of came together at that second meeting that occurred in Las Vegas. Then our first expo, we moved on to Amelia Island, Florida. And it's been really funny the last several days talking to some different people about those early days, since I'm talking to several people who are founding members also, and they were all talking about the big first gathering of all these people. We did it in tents on tabletops, and there were only a few hundred of us there, and in this large auditorium that seemed very much like a high school auditorium kind of a thing. There were a whole bunch of us in only moderately comfortable chairs, sitting there waiting for Tom and his crew to get out on the stage and start talking to us about what's going to happen at this first ever expo. And it was getting pretty uncomfortable because nothing was happening, and there was nobody out there on the stage talking to us. And so all these people were beginning to grumble, and Dave Donald, ever the big voice, got up on stage. He worked with Sonance at the time. And he got up there and did what only Dave Donald could do, and had us, rubbing our tummies and patting our heads and doing all kinds of ridiculous, standing on one foot, all the ridiculous things that only Dave Donald could get a group of people to do.
Right.
And that sort of calmed everybody a little bit, kind of gave them an opportunity to sort of get to let a little time pass so Tom and the rest of the crew could get everything ready for our opening of our first expo. So that was one of the big memories that's kind of come up from several people lately. And so Dave Donald, absolutely huge hero of our very first expo.
Very good. Well, so then let's talk about that nostalgia for Dallas as a host city, because my very first CEDIA Expo was in Dallas, but it was later. It wasn't one of those very early days. It was 96, 97, sometime around there.
Would have been 96, yeah.
What's that?
Would have been 96.
96.
We moved on.
Right. So when you may have still been doing those barbecues, but I wasn't that connected yet, so I didn't get a chance to experience that. Yeah. So tell the folks who are listening that haven't been around since the early days what that memory is, how you got to be kind of the host there in your hometown, and obviously something kind of novel about those early days when you could still do that. But tell us about the barbecue.
all Frank White's fault. Frank was sitting in a table in one of those clamshell tables at the Flamingo Hilton, I believe, in a restaurant, and he was mentioning CEDIA is going to be in Dallas next year. That was our third expo, because our second expo ended up in San Francisco at the Fairmont up on top of Nob Hill. And so by the time the third one came along, Frank had suggested that he knew I had a good sized yard, and he suggested, hey, we should have a party for just maybe a couple hundred people over at your house. And so I said, well, how would we decide who's going to come? And he said, well, just maybe there'll just be a few manufacturers. I don't know. We'll just do something small. Well, then trouble started, and so we ended up with 1,100 people out here for dinner. And we had on my tennis court, we put up a big bunch of chairs, and we had a bunch of people doing karaoke things on the tennis court, and then we had margarita machines around and barbecue, and it was just a really interesting moment. I wouldn't let anybody wear ties or badges because I wanted to introduce people one by one and make sure that they all had a chance to kind of get to know each other. Because before that, at trade shows, people didn't really cross the aisles very much. They sort of stayed in their own camps and didn't really want to go out there and mingle with what could be their competition. And so it was fascinating, the people that were here. So that was the first year. Next year, we decided, well, that was fun, but let's do it one more time. And so we ended up with about 2,100 people out here the next year. And we had buses running continuously from downtown Dallas, bringing people all the way out here. And same thing, we had my father smoked 400 pounds of turkey. We had, probably 500 pounds of brisket. And it was quite an undertaking. But the whole idea was to just try to make it fun and exciting, and to share our enthusiasm for what was going on. And so I think that was the takeaway, was that people left CEDIA Expo going, this is the place to be. It's the most fun you can possibly have at a business convention. So that was a really great start. So the next year we did, so that was, 92, 93 we were here. 94 we rented an old ghost town down south of Dallas, and we ended up having Bill Tillman, who used to be the lead saxophonist for Blood, Sweat, and Tears. He and his band were down there. We had a Sonance sponsored a 12-minute fireworks display to Bohemian Rhapsody from Queen and some Styx music. And Sam Runco was kind enough to give us a huge stack of 4 projectors that we set up out there. And we had bull riding and karaoke and every ridiculous thing you can imagine. And Frank and John David came out here just before the expo, and we printed our own money, and so we had CEDIA money for people to play with in the casino. So it was just an insane thing. We decided in 94 maybe somebody else ought to do this, and so I didn't do one in 95, and 95. So in 96, we decided nobody had done anything exciting in 95. So we decided to go ahead and do one more. And we rented Old City Park in downtown Dallas. From the Velcro Olympics to, the sumo wrestling, all this stuff was really a lot of fun. But most importantly, it gave us an opportunity to sort of bond over food and drinks and fun in something that nobody was ever doing anyplace else. And so by the time we got finished with the 96, we moved on to great shows in Atlanta, in New Orleans, where we had a great flood. That was exciting. But somehow or another, it only made us all bond more because of all the adversities, and some people having to get to the show in the back of bobtail trucks. When some people had 3 feet of water in their hotel lobbies. It was, but it didn't dampen the spirits of anybody that was there. So, because we had sort of built up this opportunity to really make this a lot of fun. So I think that's kind of what kicked off CEDIA, and we had, so I think when you think about things like a hurricane, or it was two tropical storms actually, so that came through at the same time, and one down each side. And so when you think about the shared adversity that we went through, I think it just sort of bonded a lot of us together in a way that I don't know that you'd ever get outside of the CEDIA world. And so what's kind of interesting to me is that people tell me that all the time that maybe young people don't want to go to an expo or to meetings and things like that because they can get it all off the internet. But let me tell you, when they show up at one of these things and they find out that this is an opportunity to be around their people, it's their people they didn't even know they had. It's like finding old relatives that are the coolest people you ever met. It gives you an opportunity to really have an experience that you can't get anyplace else. So young people who haven't been here, if they come the first time, they're hooked just like everybody else, because it's just it's a brotherhood that I think is a lot of fun.
Well, after the break, we will continue our conversation with Bill Skaer, who will let us know everything we need to know about Dallas, especially if you're headed there for CEDIA Expo.
Do you want superior smart home automation at a great value? Shelly Wi-Fi relays by Alterco Robotics cover DC to line voltage, allowing you to control lights, outlets, appliances, garage doors, pumps, and much more. There are Shelly sensors and power measurement devices to help you measure temperature, humidity, lux, or motion, and electrical consumption from single wire to 3-phase with neutral. You can use Shelly with a licensed driver for Control 4, Elon, or other premium systems, as well as your customer's existing hub, voice assistant, or any platform that accepts REST, MQTT, or CoAP. Shelly can make IoT very easy. Available now at Blackwire, City Electric Supply, and Worthington, or at shellyusa.com.
Welcome back. We're talking with Bill Skaer, CEO of Bill Skaer Home Theater and Technology in Dallas. So, Bill, you've given us a little taste of the nostalgia. Now let's go current day. As you said in your article, folks who maybe haven't been to downtown Dallas in a bit might not recognize certain things because there's been a lot of improvements and changes. So give us just a little taste of what's new of the area, maybe right around the convention center and those hotels where a lot of folks will be staying downtown Dallas.
Well, it's kind of fun because when we were in Dallas the first time in the early years, we had there were only about 500 people or so that lived in the downtown area. And now there's probably close to 20,000. And so the change is remarkable. So at 5 o'clock in the evening, every day, every business day in Dallas emptied out. There was not a car on the streets anywhere. And well, that's not the case anymore. So now there's, with all the people living downtown, and that it's brought restaurants and bars and entertainment that just wasn't there before. So in the article that I wrote, I put I kind of laid out a few different areas around town to kind of keep in mind for places to eat. So one of the places that I really like to go is the Bishop Art District. It's only about 10 minutes out of town, and I actually answered. There's a couple of different people who have rented houses out there that are going to do some demonstrations of their equipment out in Bishop Arts. But while they're there, I'm obviously someone who might like pie. There's a place called the Emporium Pie Shop out there, and it's the weirdest thing. You may have to stand in line that may be a block long, but it's worth the time to get in there and get your pie and get out. So it's kind of fun to go out there and do some of the street food and things. But Zen Sushi, if you know Tony Militello with Sound and Image, he's an integrator like a lot of us. And that's one of his other things that he does. He has a business called Zen Sushi. And I love it. It's out in Bishop Arts. There's, if you want to see some of the best grilled cheese sandwiches you've ever had in your life, go to Dallas Grilled Cheese that's there. But there's barbecue. There's almost everything you can imagine. There's some art galleries and really funky little shops shops and stuff. So for a night out, it's a pretty nice place to go walking around. So then only minutes from downtown also is Trinity Groves, and they have some of the more trendy restaurants and things that are just across that big Margaret Hunt Hill Bridge. And downtown Dallas has got the West End that used to be pretty hot, happening kind of places, not quite as full of nightlife as it used to be, but they're kind of coming back. But Ellen's Kitchen is there, and it's phenomenal. Particularly if you get by there for a breakfast or a brunch, it's amazing. But then as you go on around, there are restaurants like El Phoenix that's downtown. El Phoenix has been there for about 108 years, I think, and so it's Tex-Mex, not Mexican like you would have in Mexico City, for instance. But there's a place called Wild Salsa downtown that actually does have that kind of food. So some of the things like the Control 4 event's going to be held in a place called the Factory in Deep Ellum this time. And in the Deep Ellum area has all the clubs where all the music is. And it's only just, it's not 5 minutes by car from the Omni Hotel where the convention center is going to be. And so there'll be lots and lots of clubs, lots of music. There's lots and lots of restaurants there. And so all these things really weren't very well defined when we were there the first time, but they've really come along. And so there's a couple of other places like in the Uptown area. There's steak restaurants like Morton's and Perry's, and all the great ones you might expect. True Lux is there. So a lot of great steak really close to downtown. And there's one of the things that's kind of interesting is one of the largest parks in any metropolitan city in the country is the Clyde Warren Park, which they actually didn't have any place to build a park downtown, so they decided to cover one of the highways, and so they built a bridge over the highways that became this really cool park that has food trucks, and it's in the shadow of the Dallas Museum of Art and the art district that has all the great art in Dallas is right there. So there's a ton of stuff to do, and the restaurants that were that they were building in front of the Omni a couple of years back, those things are all open now, and so now there's food right at the hotel. So there's a lot going on in the area.
Yeah, that's a good point, because when we were there the last time, I believe there's still a lot of construction, so you could tell things were changing and evolving. So that's good to hear it's kind of caught up, and we get to experience some of the good results of all that work. Are you telling me that you actually are referring or recommending a sushi restaurant? I call BS on that one.
Okay. So that anybody that knows me knows that I don't eat anything that can breathe in water. So I got past that, the idea that I don't eat anything that swims, because people kept trying to tell me that cattle can swim, and I have seen that. But so if it can breathe in water, I'm not much of a fan. So when I go to a Zen Sushi, for instance, Michelle makes me incredible chicken wraps and other things to make sure that even those of us who don't eat sushi, there's a lot of sushi consumed around me, and it looks really beautiful, but I'll stick with my lettuce wrap.
Fair enough. I needed to clarify that, because I do remember multiple conversations with you on that topic of not eating bait. And there was an event, I believe it was a CEDIA management conference, where you actually got a special order burger for whatever it was a replacement for whatever the dining options were at that time. And that guy knows how to take care of himself.
Yeah, we can't let little things stop us. We just got to keep moving on.
The other thing, when you mentioned Deep Ellum, I just had to share my own personal recollection of that. As I said, going into so many expos, I've just been stressed out beyond belief leading into it. And I finally just need to figure out a way to decompress. And colleagues and I went to Deep Ellum and went to one of these cocktail bars, which it was one of those early, this is several years ago. So the cocktail kind of concept was just starting to happen. And I believe they had 6 signature cocktails, and I think I got through 4 of them that evening. I should have gotten all 6, but there's only so far you can push the expense account, and that's the perfect time to do it.
Yeah. you'll be able to get home. I guess that's the important part.
Yeah, exactly. I think the rest of the evening is a blur after that. But so great, some great memories there. I'm glad it's not going to be super hot. And I also like that there might be some green spaces, and just it sounds like really nice improvements. I'm looking forward to it. Fortunately for me, as a member of the press, not to brag, I get to be invited to things. So I didn't have to work on any of my own reservations. Everything has been booked for me. I'm looking forward to not having to stress out about any of it. All of it seems very close by, though, which is great. That's the key.
Right. Well, there's just so much to do, but it's funny. I haven't missed one expo since this thing started. So I guess this is what 33, 34. I don't know. It's a blur. But even the horrible online one that we had to do, the virtual. Oh my gosh! So Michael Haddam and I ended up having to do a split screen of the two of us together, because we've had a picture of the two of us together at pretty much every expo since the beginning of time, and so we had to do a virtual 2000 CEDIA Expo picture to add to our collection.
That's great. And I mentioned this when you were on the podcast before, but last year the highlight of the less than awesome indie one for COVID reasons and Ted Green reasons, you had your badge on that had your face without a mask, which was just classic.
Yeah, it was kind of funny because I had the picture of, here it is, as a matter of fact. So I keep all these things. So it was me without the mask.
Yes.
So just in case, because you never know when somebody might not recognize you, because my voice is not at all distinctive. But even though the funny thing is that even though there was only, I think Emerald reported something around the neighborhood of 1,400 1,400 attendees or something like that. It seemed like a stretch, but only because there was so much extra space in there that there was plenty of room for us to run around. But I think the manufacturers who showed up were very pleased because they got a chance to spend a lot of good time with the members that showed up. And so I think it turned out, under the circumstances, it was a good way to get back into the game. But now I have to tell you, I think this is going to be one of the really large ones. We haven't seen anything like this one in a while, I don't think, just because all of the buzz online, it just looks really, really like this is going to be an exciting time.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I wanted to close out with just a couple more things real quick. First of all, your board, being part of the board there for CEDIA. Difference for those who don't understand, CEDIA, the trade association, is different than CEDIA Expo, which is owned by Emerald Exhibitions company. So as a member of the board for the association, what kind of insight could you give folks who maybe haven't been following? I know that there's a lot of the government advocacy stuff being presented at the beginning of Expo, and that's a very important thing. Darren Riemann and his group. What else want to share more about that? Would you like to kind of give us insights on?
Well, Darren Riemann is one of my very most favorite humans. He is like a walking, talking computer. He manages our government affairs group, and he shows up on behalf of our members. And the thing about it is, it's not only just our members anymore. In that the board made a pretty bold decision a number of years ago to call ourselves an industry association and not necessarily only a member association. And so we advocate not only for our members, but for also for the people who just happen to be doing this business that are not. Now, do we want them to join us? Absolutely. Is there great value in that $500 membership fee? I don't know what you could do for $500 that you can get more for bang for your buck than you'll get out of a CEDIA membership. But Darren Riemann, if you didn't get anything other than the guy that keeps up with every single legislative issue going on in the entire U.S., and I understand that folks globally don't get quite as much greatness out of Darren as what we do here in the U.S. But here in the U.S., he has a program that looks for words and phrases and things like that would come up that might be somehow or another adversely affect our businesses. And so he'll be talking about that in that advocacy breakfast. I think originally we started promoting it pretty heavily to try to get a lot of people there. Well, then they started signing up, and so they had to quickly go back in and get some more space. So I think there'll be a lot of people there, and I think this is one of those times where I don't think it's a really good idea to just go in there and get the free breakfast and then bolt, because I think you're going to get a lot out of listening to Darren and understanding what it is, the advocacy that CEDIA is doing on your behalf, whether you're a member or whether you're not. We're still working for you, and I've been a member of the Government Affairs Action Team for, I don't know, ever since Darren's been there for about 19 years, I think. And so I've been involved in that all the way along. And it is fascinating to when he shows up at a state house and begins to explain why it is that other companies that are trying to make it so we can't do our business. For instance, security companies, cable companies, telephone companies, all these different people, they sometimes push for laws that I don't believe that they think is necessarily against us. I think they're competing against their competitors, and we get kind of caught up in the nonsense that they do, and so that's why Darryl has to show up and tell everybody what it is that's going on, and you know, the grassroots effort is enormous. So every time something begins to happen in a state, then Darren reaches out to all of us in the state and says, I'm going to need you in Texas, for instance. I'm going to need you in Austin on this day because here's the issue that's going on. I'm going to need you to testify before this committee so that they actually know that there are people engaged in this business that will be adversely affected if they take that action. And we actually really do get a lot of great results from that. So I think the advocacy breakfast is going to be a one not to miss, and it's certainly one not to run out of too early, because there may not ever be a better way for you to know what it is that CEDIA is doing behind the scenes for you.
Well, that's great to hear about the attendance. I'm very happy to hear about that. I'm registered to attend that as well, and looking forward to hearing a lot of what I already know, but just hearing everyone else listen to it too, you know. And it's a chance for me for the first time to meet Darren Riemann, our new CEO. And we've spoken on the phone and Zoom and all that stuff, and just schedules haven't jibed as far as locally to get together. So I'm going to get to say hello to him for the first time. How impressed have you been with him and as a member of the board?
We scored better than anything you could ever have imagined to have gotten Darren Riemann to be our CEO. And I met him last December at our first board meeting. The last board meeting of the year. But it was his first opportunity to attend, was his first day. And so he got thrown right into the fire immediately. And watching him handle himself in a pretty tough room was pretty amazing. And watching him as time has gone on over the past year, I'm absolutely blown away with how effective he is and how much he listens. And when you're talking to him, he's taking in all of it. And so I really love what he's doing. So, but I wanted to cover a couple of other things real quick, because there's going to be we're going to have the awards back at Expo, thank goodness. And unfortunately, I don't think you and Adam are going to be able to deliver any award this time. But that was the talk about the highlights of my expos. It's
leave it alone. We don't have to bring that up. I was so much better when I finally got rid of Adam. I was, on my own. let's just move on to the future. Let's not dwell on that.
The most deadpan people I've ever met.
Oh my God.
That was amazing. But anyway, we're going to have the awards for the U.S. anyway back at Expo on Friday night. And so before that, there's going to be a members-only reception, which we haven't had, I don't think in our whole history we've ever done an actual members-only reception. And so that'll be for about an hour before the show, before we start with the awards program on Friday. I think it's 4:30, I believe. And so at 5:30 is when the awards start. But to be able to get my amazing friend Carol Campbell the Lifetime Achievement Award this time I just can't tell you how proud I am of Carol and all that she's done. She's amazing. And so for her to be there, and Peter Aylett as our fellow this year, how do you find somebody more deserving than Peter Aylett? I mean, he's been involved in education for so long and done such a great job for us. So, yeah, we got a lot of really kind of fun stuff happening. But talking to Control4 and to Origin and on and on, everybody I'm talking to has got something new to show, and so this is going to be a lot of fun all the way around.
And as you go on to the show floor, let's just wrap up with a little bit of the actual tech talk, since that's the name of our podcast. What are you looking for in terms of products and technology that you just haven't had a chance to see in person yet that kind of excites you?
Well, there's some new entries in the shading group that I think will be kind of interesting to see because I think there's a lot of discussion right now around what do we call ourselves? I mean, we've been through places where we've tried to be home technology professionals. We've had a variety of different terms that we've tried to use over a long time. I've been an integrator personally for 35 plus years. I've been in the business for 43, and I've called myself an integrator for all those years. So it's interesting to see that part of the discussion that you'll see that's coming up really soon is what do we call ourselves? So I'm hoping that we fall in line with the integrator term, because you can be a commercial integrator, you can be a residential integrator, but regardless of what we ultimately end up with, the idea is that that's what we do, is we integrate systems into homes. So between lighting and shades and audio and video and home theater and all the security and on, all the things that we do, we bring all of these systems together. And I think we had a great video a few years back that you can still see on YouTube that was called Life Lived Best at Home. And I absolutely love that video that we did, because it really kind of says what we do. And but yeah, there's going to be a ton of new products. Chad, with the guys at Sony, there's a lot of really fun stuff coming. So I think we'll have a really good show.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We're going to see a lot of new stuff and just catch up with a lot of old friends. So thanks, Bill. I really appreciate your time today. Great catching up, and look forward to seeing you in person again.
Always fun. Thank you.
Bill Skaer is CEO of Bill Skaer Home Theater and Technology in Dallas, Texas. He currently serves on the CEDIA Trade Association Global Board of Directors, and he is a CEDIA Fellow and Lifetime Achievement Award recipient. And that wraps up today's show. If you're new to Residential Tech Talks, please subscribe to the weekly podcast on your preferred platform and consider rating or reviewing us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, check out all the latest residential tech news at the magazine's website, restechtoday.com, where you can also subscribe to the print or digital magazine and to our Tuesday and Friday email newsletters. Until next time, please stay safe, stay inspired, and let us know if you have a great story to tell.
Residential Tech Talk, lighting specialist, residential tech.